Hello Internet, welcome to another episode of the Jongravesshow. EA's E3 was actually really fun, and it was something that did actually kind of catch me off guard, and I was actually surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did, even though most of their shit was just sports games. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about what they were trying to present to us to make us feel the same, man, for us to cry their names to the heavens, even though they are kind of the worst company out. But let's go ahead and talk about it. First game is up is Madden 18 The Journey, or Long Shot. It does your normal like EA Sports game thing now, where it has a really good, where they're focusing on the story, they're focusing on the journey, and this one actually kind of goes a little bit further back, I believe, because now it's like you are now a child learning how to play football from your father, and you got these mentors and everything else, stuff like that. And it seems though that it kind of takes your character from being a kid, to playing in high school and college and being in the NFL. It even goes so far as to kind of say that possibly you might be a newscaster or like a sportscaster, like at the end of this journey. So it might be something like that, or most likely it might just be like a retirement thing, like when you just don't feel like playing anymore. So kind of comes off like that. It seems to focus more on the story though. So that's something that is a positive shine in their direction. But let's talk about their next game though. Next up is just an update of what's supposed to be coming with the next installment of Battlefield 1. Well, apparently if you have been playing that for a while and you've gotten pretty far, well, now here are some updates. They got 6 brand new maps. They're adding the Russian Army, the Hussein Cavalry, and the Women's Women's Battalion of Death, along with way more weapons, vehicles, and all that wonderful stuff. If anything, it seems like it's going to be a really good expansion. I mean, really, I can't speak too much on that because I really haven't played it, but still, I will say though that it does sound like it's going to be a really good expansion, or at the very least add on to what's already there. So again, it's positive, especially now that people, man, can stop asking questions about, hey man, how come women say, hey, how come I can't play as a lady like in this game? You know, shit like that. But hey, got their bases covered. Let's move on to our next game. Next up, we have the Men in Blazers come out, and honestly, these are 2 sportscasters for the FIFA side of things. These 2 guys have really good chemistry, and they were really doing their hardest to keep people interested in the FIFA 18 Journey Return, which I do believe that Journey Returns does by far the most interesting thing of all of the FIFA games, or at the very least all of the sports games that have been coming out year after year. The real thing about it though is that I kind of wish they would do this for both Madden and also Live, but essentially this game is a better FIFA. Has the story mode for what's going on there is that they're going to continue it from the previous game, and that they're going to compensate, and that they're going to give you another year like in the shoes of your created character or the character of that game. So again, something that I wish that they would do more of, because again, it's more or less like instead of every game you make a brand new character, it's okay, your choices, your actions, they actually play a part in what is supposed to go down in this next game. So, or pretty much how people see your character, or most likely they could call back on certain things, or some mistakes out there, or some mistakes in which that you made in the previous games, like they could disappear like in this brand new game, or your opponents, like that they could have a rivalry with you, or something of that nature. Really interesting. Hopefully they do this more, you know. But let's talk about the next game. Next up, we have Need for Speed Payback. Honestly, to be real with you, I kind of want these games to be renamed the Need for Speed. The Fast and Furious games, because again, at the heart of this game, or at the least for what its story is that this one isn't necessarily about racing so much as this one is more or less about taking down a super cartel known as the House. And apparently your three characters, Tyler, Jess, and Mac, have to drive around destroying their territory, stealing their cars, messing up their stuff, all they say with your high action driving, you know. And from what they do say though is that each one of the characters kind of has their own different play styles, which again I was kind of curious about that, because again this is a driving game, unless it's something like, okay, what they focus on as they drive. But as this trailer was kind of, or this presentation was actually showing, it was okay, you were driving in the car as Tyler with Jess at your side. And apparently, I believe that his gameplay seemed to be more or less of getting in, kind of destroying all the cars around him and everything, and kind of just like getting everybody else to their objective point. Whereas Jess's thing kind of switched over, like once she stole the car and everything, it switched to her, and it was more or less about high speed driving, probably getting away from, probably losing people who are tailing her. Mostly her stuff is probably focused on getting away. Now Mac, on the other hand, I don't necessarily know, because most of this stuff was more or less like, I just heard him like just giving them the information, so that was sort of what happened there. But in terms of what this game kind of looks like though, it looks a lot like the Fast and Furious films. It does, and especially since that it kind of has this overarching draw of saying, okay, these characters that they need to take down cartel with action, super driving. Well, that kind of solidifies it. I mean, again, like they're kind of really doesn't talk, like they don't talk about out of the car experiences all that much. So again, everything seems to kind of just again focus on the driving. So hopefully that is something. Let's move on to our next game. A Way Out actually was by far one of the most interesting games to actually hit the EA conference, mostly because it felt very different, and also on top of that, it was kind of interesting how they were doing co-op in this one. Essentially, the whole story of the game is that you have two criminals. One of them was always in jail, and the other one is freshly coming to a jail. You have Vincent, who just came to prison, and then you have Leo, who has been in prison for a while. Basically, these two characters, they meet up, and of course they are trying to break out of prison. Of course, because they kind of have their own agendas and everything. However, this one is super interesting because, again, for it to be a complete co-op-esque game, like what they say is that it's you can play the game online, or you can play the game local, and it's always supposed to be split screen. So, and also certain things play out a certain way, because again, one character can be in a cutscene, you know, as they show with Vincent coming into prison, but Leo can still move around and do his own thing and stuff like that. And also they handle problems very differently, such as when trying to smuggle sheets out. Leo kind of just beats the guy up, whereas Vincent like bribes him with a pack of cigarettes and then tells the guard that, you know, like the chute is busted and stuff like that. You know, things like that. Now, again, this kind of just extends to the stealth stuff. I mean, like, it goes beyond that, because again, they do have other stuff, like when they do get out of prison. It kind of turns into somewhat of like a Army of Two type of co-op, like shooting and getting away from the cops kind of thing, where like the cops are chasing maybe Vincent, and Leo has to come up behind him and like destroy like their tires and stuff like that, so that they can get away. Interesting stuff like that. I don't know if this is gonna be like one of the better ones. However, it does keep me interested though. So that is what I gotta say about that. Let's talk about the next game. So next up is basically NBA Live 18, and it looks like that they just threw NBA Ballers Phenom into this game, or that they just blended it in, because again, the major focus of this one is, well, of course they have a story mode and everything, and at this point that's kind of normal. However, the different thing about it is that as you climb through the ranks, like in the NBA, you also have to climb through the ranks and gain street cred whenever you play street ball, because again, it kind of takes it to where it's like, it's not all about you being in the league. It's not all about you actually kind of being this type of player and everything. You also need street cred. You also need to kind of go out there and show people out there in the streets that you got the skills, and that you being in the NBA isn't necessarily, you know, just like not like a lucky fluke or something like that. You know, like, it's kind of interesting though, because again, like, because they do say that, like, you get different shoes, you change your clothing, stuff like that, which do play a part in your skills and how people see you, and the way how that you play on the streets does kind of anticipate people whenever you are in the league and everything, which most likely does kind of come off super interesting. I mean, like, it comes off actually really smart, because again, it's like if you don't play with this guy, or better yet, you don't, or they're just like in the league and everything, and then you see them on TV and they're kind of an asshole, then once they get out of the league and everything, and then they kind of just go out and start playing like in street games and everything, it can kind of change the way how people see you because of this press conference in which that you had, or they can be more positive. Like, it's another piece of the puzzle that I'm liking, you know. But let's talk about Star Wars Battlefront finally. So let's get right into that. So finally, we're hitting up Star Wars Battlefront. And what is Star Wars Battlefront 2 doing? Well, Star Wars Battlefront 2, they're doing everything in their power to actually make people not as pissed off as they were when the first one came out, as that they are promising a crap ton of content, like add-ons, split screen co-op, all the rest of this other stuff. Like, they are trying their hardest to keep people interested in this goddamn game, and they are doing a fantastic job of doing that, of basically allowing customization, giving all the weapons like different stats, which they did kind of get in people that they did get footage from a lot of players and everything, and they did show that in this trailer or in this presentation of saying that the weapons feel different, the classes feel different, like there is no problems with those anymore. Also, on top of that, the space battles are better, the the vehicles are better, all that. Even basically some of the hero characters, they even went on to say that, well, I'm kind of glancing over here, but they even went on to say that they're planning on doing all of the themed content focused around the movies and everything, and that they were starting off with The Last Jedi or The Last Order, you know. So they're going to start off with that, and all of the maps, all of the weapons, all of the hero stuff, all of it is free for people out there who own the game. So most likely, if you pre-order it, you also get to go into the beta early. So there is that. But in terms of what this game is and how it's kind of being presented so far, I'd say it's kind of nice. Now, I don't know if the themed content, if that's just gonna have you do missions from each of the movies, which I would like, you know, because again, even though it's just a multiplayer game, you know, don't sleep on the fact that how many people that they actually like stories. But then again, I say that, and I'm playing a game called Killing Floor 2, so, you know, a game that kind of has a very tiny story and really kind of doesn't do enemy variety all that well, but you know, it's still fun because, you know, it's just wave-based combat. But again, though, it's like looking at a game that is Battlefront 2, though, it's like, yeah, I think it just might do better than its previous installment. So that is something. Also, I do like the announcement. The announcer, she did a really good job with that. You know, Janina Gavankar did a good job. well, let's go ahead and close this out. For my closing thoughts about what happened with this E3, because again, I've only just been talking about the fucking game. So yeah, let's close. Truth be told, EA's announcement was kind of middle of the road, because again, they kind of were doing just basically what you kind of expected them to do. Talk about their 3 sports games, Madden, FIFA, and NBA Live, and give you updates upon the other, and throw out a brand new Need for Speed, which again, that kind of jumps like into the category of new games, which that they did kind of talk about the Need for Speed Payback, along with A Way Out. Two somewhat fun looking games, along with the fact of that they had only 2 updates. So again, I really can't knock them for that. But till then though, that is. But again, if I could rate it, I would give it a B. You know, because at this point they kind of stay consistent for how they do things every year, and I'm proud of them for that. So yeah, good job. On to the next. Catch me here for my next video when I talk about the Bethesda conference, because again, that one's easier to talk about right now than it is to talk about Microsoft, which I am working on, and I need to have that up before 6 o'clock before I go to work. So yeah, let me go ahead and jump right into that.